On this special guest edition of The Socket, we're taking a look at Glover on the N64. We're going to talk about the word originality. Originality alone is not sufficient to make a game good, but after playing Glover, it starts to seem like it might be necessary. Glover is a platformer that seems like it's kind of trying to switch things up. Platformers themselves aren't original, especially for the time. The N64 in particular was also definitely not lacking on the platformer front. When you hear someone talk about a platformer on the N64, you probably think of 10 games before coming up with Glover, and that's if you do. Glover tries its best to stay fresh in the platforming genre. You play as a glove dribbling around a ball and avoiding weird enemies, which is pretty original, but it can't keep the game from just feeling stale. While it does seem like an initially steadfast attempt at trying to switch up the platformer genre, it soon falls flat. Glover seems like it could have been such a cool idea. The story itself is very innocent. A wizard is mixing together some potions, one of his gloves falls in, turns evil, and you have to stop him. This could be the setup for a good, innocent platformer, but it's incredibly uninventive. There's so much more that they could have done with the mechanics that they've put into this game. There are certain moves you can do that could have been utilized more often. There are these potions that give you these really weird and kind of cool power-ups, but they're barely ever used. And there's a ball that they let you transform into a bunch of different types of balls, but you press switches with them. And boy, do you press switches. The level design is unimaginative poo-poo. The game is extremely simple. It consists only of bringing your ball with you from point A to point B, hit a few switches on the way, then go to the glowy circle thing at the end and watch Glover do a little dance that's nowhere near as cool as any of the Crash Bandicoot dances. You go through each of the 6 worlds, which consist of 3 short levels and a boss fight. The levels themselves are incredibly unimaginative, but in the circus level, there seems to be a fake glimmer of hope, where you've got this little part where you got a bunch of these circus mini-games and you can win extra lives as if you really needed them because the game hands them out to you all the time. But it was still something that was really cool and kind of interesting and a little experimental. But the rest of the game is not like that. It starts out on a sort of high note with Atlantis as the first world's theme, which is kinda cool and gets your hopes up for what might come next. But neither the levels nor the gameplay get any more engaging, exciting, or complex for that matter. I swear this is the most egregious example I've seen of developers coming up with the most generic settings possible. Besides Atlantis, which would be cool if it wasn't squandered on extremely basic and rudimentary levels, you've got a pirate theme world, a Halloween theme world, a carnival theme world, a space themed world, and a prehistoric theme world that could have been cool, but they just use it to have their obligatory ice and lava video game levels. It also doesn't help that none of the levels are very interesting, and the music is mildly amusing at best. Thank goodness there's only 3 levels per world, with a boss fight at the end. The bosses are bosses. You hit them or a switch a few times and they die. Nothing interesting. The final boss had potential to be this really cool, daunting fight with this robot that's huge in scale, like 500 times your size. But you end up getting inside and it devolves into mash the shoot button, and if you have enough lives, don't even care about getting hurt. The hardest thing about the game, besides the first bonus stage that turns you into a frog, screw that bonus stage, is figuring out who this game is even for. The fact that the game has a fairly harmless story and subject matter, along with the overall easy difficulty, and the fact that the cheats that you enter make farting and burping noises, incline me to say that this game is for kids. But as a kid that grew up playing this, I never even wanted to get past the second world, and I never did. At least I can say I didn't miss much. There are also some semi-cryptic sequences, like having to perform a specific acrobatic move that involves slamming on top of your ball while it's in bouncy ball form, which only comes up twice in the whole entire game, and the tutorial doesn't even teach you how to do it. Or knowing that you're supposed to throw this ball at this one particular monkey out of the 3 involved in the boss fight, and then ground pound him after he falls down because you're supposed to notice he has this little target on his chest. These make this game hard to recommend to pretty much anyone. Both kids and adults are either going to get stuck or bored. Or probably both, like I did. The bonus stages you unlock by collecting all of the gribs in each stage kind of paint a picture of how varied and interesting the game could have been, because the bonus stages actually utilize the power-ups in, I guess, amusing ways to turn you into a frog, like I said earlier, or turn you into Glover's ball, but they're still super short and uninteresting, making unlocking them nowhere near even worth it. Glover seems to be a game that has become forgotten, even in the small gem-filled library of the Nintendo 64, and as someone who grew up playing Glover, it's almost depressing to think that there's actually a good reason for it.